What's going on? What's going on?
Entertain the Geeky.
Hello.
Hello.
So we were just talking. It's like, what do you want to talk about this week? And I was like, we should riff it. And you were like, man, I've been playing Final Fantasy 16.
I have.
And you were talking about how it kind of grinds on your OCD a bit, how video games do.
Yeah, video games nowadays, man, they really seem to have played on the idea that there's a lot of people that would play games just to collect stuff, just to make sure they've checked every box on the list. And that seems like every video game nowadays.
Yeah, how, like, you play through the storyline and you can complete the storyline, but when is complete? And for some people, it's 100%ing the game.
The game is 100%. That's the problem, right? It's not about 100%ing the game anymore. The game is done. Like when you look at the little, so like PlayStation and Nintendo, I don't know if Nintendo does it, but PlayStation definitely does it, where when you highlight the game on your home screen, in the bottom right corner, it tells you not only how many hours you've played the game, but how much percentage of the game has been completed. So it's set 100% through this entire playthrough. Right, because I did everything in the game on my first playthrough, but there's a trophy list on every game now. I have to applaud Nintendo for not doing that. Nintendo doesn't have trophies, right? They have little, that's not to say their games don't have the collect-a-thon thing going on, but it's not about chasing the trophies.
Right.
I'm completing the game based on what my perception is of it being complete.
Sure.
Whereas PlayStation and Xbox, completing the game is not your own perception of completion. Completing the game is the developer's perception of completion.
See,
right?
that's what's so wild to me. So, like, I guess I'm just wired a little different here, because when I say I beat the game, I mean I just did their storyline all the way through. I don't give a goddamn if I did all the side quests or anything. Don't care at all.
Yeah, but video games have capitalized on the fact that most people aren't like you. Most people are like me.
I'm not denying that.
If they see a question mark on the map, they have to go get that question mark and see what's there at that question mark.
It's a necessary thing for a lot of people. Yeah. Like you said, they get your OCD engaged, and it's a totally different thing.
Well, and again, that's all just stuff that's in the game. The trophy list is ridiculous, right? And one of the things I didn't even used to care about it. I didn't used to care about the trophies. If they pop, if they do, great. I don't care about collecting
Capuano.
them. But it was Capuano,
Yeah.
who's been on the show with us talking about video games, who like called me up one day and was like, "So you play about as many video games as me, and our overall gamer scores are pretty close to each other." He's like, "I'm a little higher than you," and I was just like, is that a challenge? Are you challenging me?
Are we fucking doing this right now?
So, well, and there were some games that I would look at the trophy list and go, oh, I can achieve all of this, right? But then there are a lot of games that tie their achievements into difficulty, right? So playing Final Fantasy 16 specifically a second time, your first playthrough, the level cap is 50. That's as high as you can go, and I got it there before I even got to the end of the game. Because I'm a weird, grindy, like I'll go fight enemies for an hour just to gain a couple of levels before I move on to the next thing.
Sure.
Which is typical of RPGs in general, right? But playing through the game the second time, you have to play it on Final Fantasy mode, which is the highest difficulty that the game has to offer. You don't even unlock that difficulty until you've completed the game once.
Okay.
Because when you first play the game, there's two difficulties: story focused, which is like the easy, we'll take it easy on you, and you can just enjoy the story; and action focused, which is the way the developers intend it to be played. Right?
You go in there, it's
going to be
moderate
challenging.
difficulty.
Yeah, it's going to be a little challenging,
but you're still getting all the crunch of the story.
But you can overcome it, right? With enough grinding and time.
Sure.
The problem is then going into Final Fantasy mode, the level cap moves from 50 to 100. So you start the game at level 50, but because of the increased challenge, it really is just like you've started the game at level 1 again. Now, you do get to carry over all the cool powers and equipment and stuff that you got through your first playthrough. Sure. So that adds a little bit right to the beginning of, I'm kind of a god mode in this. I'm kind of a god in this mode. But very quickly that changes, right?
Yeah, you realize,
I went through the entirety of the first playthrough without getting killed by an enemy. I never saw the game over screen until I started playing on Final Fantasy mode, where like one super attack that you don't dodge out of the way of just kills you instantly.
Absolutely decimates you. Okay. Okay.
But so completing the game on Final Fantasy mode is to get that one trophy that's just tied into difficulty, right? Complete the game on Final Fantasy mode. The rest of them are all, utilities, right? Things you're doing in the game anyway, right? Block attacks with this specific power 20 times.
Right.
Do this much damage to an enemy while it's stunned.
You're
right?
like, yeah, I fucking do that.
I'm doing that anyway, right? Exactly. Those trophies were popping, and I wasn't even thinking about them. I wasn't even trying to do them.
It was totally
just like, that was a trophy.
Point.
Okay, cool. Yeah. But that last Final Fantasy mode means I had to go through the entire game again. I had to take it from level 50 to level 100. And last night, I finished every side quest, everything in the game except the final boss fight, and I'm level 99. And some change, right? So now I have to go grind it out to 100 before I complete the game because it's one level away, and I'm going to do that, right? Because, again, I'm OCD, and I can't
I have to get
stop.
that achievement, yeah.
I have to get that achievement. But, yeah, it's just like the problem I'm having, right, is like last night I was playing the game, and there's certain things you can't skip, but most dialogue can just be like, look, I've read it before it's done being spoken, so I'm just going to skip to the next piece of dialogue. And my wife was like, what are you doing? You never do this. And I'm just like, I'm fucking tired of this game. I just want to be done with this game.
And that's
right? It's a great game.
That's after 2 playthroughs. That's the weird part.
I spent 160 hours in this game.
I mean, I guess that's fair.
It tells me right on the screen how many hours I've spent in this game.
I have worked 4 work weeks on this game.
Yes. I'm just tired of it. I just want to be done with it. And that's not to say I would never come back and play it again. Sure. I will sometime in the future come back and play because it's a great game. It's just really cool story. It's just fun.
Right, you have fatigue right now. You have fatigue.
Yeah. I played it twice in a row, and it's 100+ hour game, and I'm done. I'm ready to be done.
What's gonna be your between games game, or is there gonna be one?
What do you mean? Like, what am I going to do until the next thing comes out? The next thing's already come out. That's why I'm trying to finish Final Fantasy.
Okay, you got
Baldur's Gate 3 came out.
Oh yeah, that's
for
fair.
PlayStation, and I want to play it.
Baldur's Gate 3 is like the shit right now, too.
Yeah, but it's also another one of those ones that I'm sure there's 600 things to do, and I'm going to have to do every single one of them. It's another one of those games I'm going to spend 200 hours of my life playing. I just think that at this point, they know exactly what they're doing. And they know that the kind of people that are going to buy these games, the kind of people that are going to play these games, those of us out there that are like me, are not going to stop until it's done.
Got to keep you in game as much as possible.
And I used to say, like, for me, it's because I spent $70 on this.
Yeah.
I want to experience everything this thing has to offer. You want to get
every dime out of that game.
Right, because I spent a lot. The games aren't cheap anymore. Even before the price hike, when games were $60, that's still a good chunk of money to drop on a video game. And you want to get everything you can out of what it is.
Right.
I don't want to experience all they intended it to be. And yeah, it's just like, I mean, Tears of the Kingdom is a perfect example too. I'm not even done with that game. I'm done with that game. I haven't been playing it. I started playing Final, but I'm not done. There's still stuff to do, and I've spent hundreds of hours in that, almost 300 hours in that game.
I'll be back.
Well, and at this point, the little things that I have to do are just minor utilitarian things, right?
Sure.
Like grind out some enemies to get some materials to upgrade a piece of armor, right? I have pieces of armor that still aren't maxed out, and I consider that part of the game's overall experience, right? Is getting all of these things to the max so you can kind of pick and choose how you want to look. Because the thing with cutscenes nowadays too, cutscenes are generated by in-game engines. So what you look like in-game is what you look like in a cutscene, and that can be really cool, right? Like, I mean, Final Fantasy 16 just dropped an update yesterday or the day before that allows you to like change the look of the main characters and make the weapon look like whatever weapon, because he just uses a sword, but like you get different swords throughout the game. They all have different looks and stuff. To kind of transmog it, make it look like whatever sword you've had previously in your possession. So like that, again, adds a whole layer of like, no, I like the aesthetics of what this looks like so that when he's in a cutscene, it's cool looking. It fits perfectly with what's going on. It's just, there's so much stuff.
I got to play through all these cutscenes again just so it can look right.
Just so I can see what he looks like in his cool edgelord costume that he has. Like he's got this little black like tunic that's got like It looks like Wolverine claws cut out of it. I was just like, look at this edgelord weirdo here. But it's cool looking, right? It's not denying that it's actually really interesting looking. But in his normal costume, I think he just looks like Dracula. Like he's just like in red and black, and he's got like a little cape, and I'm just like, he's just fucking Dracula. He looks like Dracula. The first time I saw him in that main outfit, I was just like, oh, look at Dracula over here.
I will change this.
But so yeah, I just think that video game manufacturers and developers, things are getting bigger and bigger and bigger as we go along.
Sure.
Rarely anymore do you see games that are just simple, that are just a game without a bunch of nonsense stuff to go collect, right? Like games like the old Castlevania or the old Metroid, where it's just like, there's not a bunch of stuff to collect. There's not a bunch of stuff to do. It's just about fighting your way through this castle until you get to Dracula, and then you got to kill Dracula. That was the whole game. There was, stuff you could pick up along the way that would make you more beefy, but it's not necessary to pick it up. And it's not a little question mark on the menu screen telling me I need to pick it up.
I think so. Gamers are different than they were back then. And I think there are more super gamers like you who are okay, well, what's next in this game? And they want to keep you in that game as long as possible.
I mean, sure, but doesn't that fight the industry as a whole? Like, look, while I'm stuck in Baldur's Gate for the next 6 months,
right,
there's going to be 3 other games that are going to come out that I want to play and I'm going to buy, right? So, like, doesn't that fight the industry as a whole? If I stay too long with this thing, well, then I'm not playing this thing.
If you can keep your game as relevant for as long as possible, it was just a couple of months ago, everything was Tears of the Kingdom, and it was we probably had a month and a half where that's all you saw on social media.
Well, yeah, and the internet and YouTube. Yeah,
that was it.
Yeah,
there's been a lot for Baldur's Gate for the last month.
Yeah, I mean, apparently Larian Studios has made a masterpiece.
So yeah, I think like certain games you just get that.
Sure, but so much so that one of the biggest news stories I've been hearing about is other developers should be afraid of what Larian Studios has done, because it now means they have to up their game in order to stay relevant with what this studio has done with this IP. Apparently the turn-based action RPG genre has been changed forever because of this game's release. That's all I've been hearing about and reading about, and reading about, but not only hearing about on the internet, but hearing about from friends that are playing it.
Right.
Like Nate, who's like, oh, it's one of the greatest D&D games I've ever played. Not only from a gameplay standpoint, but apparently from a story standpoint. And that's saying something, right? Because years ago, a year ago or more at this point, they showed the opening cutscene of the game on the internet. Like you could watch it. It was shown off at some Gamescom or something like that, where the Illithid ship is descending on Baldur's Gate and like abducting people. And there's that guy who literally transforms into a mind flayer because he's got the parasite in his brain. And I remember showing that to Brodeur, right? Early on when it first like popped up on the internet, and his reaction to it was, wow, I suck. And I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, because I didn't come up with a story as good as that. And again, all he saw was the opening 6 minutes of the story, right? And was just like, I am a terrible storyteller because I didn't come up with an awesome story like that. That's an awesome story.
It is cool. Well, I mean, that's what's really interesting about it. So, because this is a smaller studio that's done this as well.
I wouldn't say Larian is a small studio. They're not as big as places like Bethesda.
Exactly.
Or
it's not
Insomniac.
Your Activision. Yeah.
Yeah. But Larian's not a small studio.
Sure. No, I mean, but as far as like the hierarchy of games, like independent games are becoming more and more relevant.
Are they?
I feel like they are.
I mean, that's fair. And there's probably more space for them in the gaming sphere now. But you rarely hear about them. The games you hear about are those AAA, Marvel games or Star Wars games or big D&D games or Final Fantasy games.
We had, over the last few years, we've had Among Us, which I think was an independent title. and that was huge.
Sure.
We've had Fortnite, which, granted, owned by a massive company.
I was going to say, I don't think Fortnite
owned by a massive company
is what you would call an indie game.
No. But it was like this weird blip on the radar, and all of a sudden it's the biggest thing in the world.
Well, Battle Royale is as a genre kind of got more.
It got a major foothold in the gaming
relevance.
market. Yeah,
I think it started with like Team Fortress and stuff like that, and then we had Overwatch, and obviously Fortnite has its place within that sphere. But it's League of Legends or any of these types of games that are strategy based multiplayer games. Battle Royale, I guess. I don't think
Battle Royale is very different. Yeah, League of Legends doesn't fit in there. Neither does Overwatch.
Overwatch doesn't fit into the Battle Royale category?
It's not a Battle Royale. It's a team-based fighting game.
So is Fortnite.
No, Fortnite's Battle Royale. Each individual goes in for themselves. You can do teams.
Right, I was going to say, I've seen
teams
people
of
playing
like
it.
2 to 3, but Overwatch is teams of 5 going off against each other every time.
Okay. So the difference would be it's every man for himself versus I have a team of homies?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And yeah, Overwatch it's a fucking toxic game. We don't need to talk about it.
Well, I don't think it's a toxic game. I think it's a toxic community.
Shit out of it.
I think it's a toxic community.
Oh yeah, and
that's that. You can't say the game is toxic.
No.
Right?
The fan base is.
It's the fan base that has been built out of the game that is toxic.
It's so much fun though. So these assholes in this game, they get so shitty, and like hate speech. Okay, there's like flat out hate speech, and I'm just like, wow. That escalated quickly. We haven't even started playing yet.
That little 8-year-old kid just committed a hate crime.
It might not even be an 8-year-old. It could be a 35-year-old that's just sitting there seeing what kind of rise he can get out of people.
Yeah, most of the time it's usually like a little child, though.
Sure.
Every time I've seen those angry game people on those online games, it's usually an 8-year-old kid.
Finding a way to type a word that they don't let you type here.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, what kind of...
It's usually an 8-year-old kid telling me that my mom should have aborted me.
Yeah.
It's like, what? Shut up, kid.
They're throwing 4s in there for A's in odd places just so they can, do hate speech. I'm like, wow, you guys are impressive because I never would have thought to do that.
Yeah, I mean, they had to think about how to commit their hate crime. Yeah, they had to think about it. Yeah, that's terrifying.
And they're just, it's like, what are you trying to accomplish here? And it's one of those things. Are you just trying to get a rise out of people? Like, is that what you're going for?
My friend's son absolutely was trying to get a rise out of people. His screen name on Xbox Live was "I'm 7."
Yeah, that kid.
Just so everyone knew, you just got pwned by a 7-year-old
shitting on you.
Yeah,
shitting on you.
Like obviously it didn't last, right? That screen name's only relevant for the year he is 7. But that was when he first joined Xbox Live. When he was 7 years old.
Then he's 8. Then what happens, bitches? That's fantastic, though. That's funny.
Yeah, the community's just toxic, man. Like, that's the problem with those things.
It's funny, though. Well, but if you think about it, okay, so you and Capuano are not doing, like, a head-to-head game against each other.
No.
At all.
No.
But you have this weird competition. Could you imagine?
Yeah, but I'm not going to call Capuano a racial slur if he gets ahead of me in the competition.
I'm not saying you are.
Like, that's the difference.
But there are friend groups where that's totally the norm. And could you imagine? So you're in a lobby with some of your friends. You say some heinous shit because that's how you and your friends talk, okay? But there's somebody in that lobby that's not from your friend group. And they're like, what the fuck did I do to you to be called, slur A? It's just wild, man. And how did you know that was going to actually let you type that out? You've done some homework.
You had to do research about your hatred. Yeah, you had to research your hatred.
It's so fucking wild to me, man. Yeah. Weird.
But I'll
stuff,
never
man.
play games like that. I can't get into that. In fact, the only reason I would play Baldur's Gate 3 is because apparently you can play it solo.
Yeah.
Now, that's not to say I wouldn't play it online with people that I know, right?
Right.
Capuano's going to pick the game up. Nate's playing the game on his computer, and it's got crossplay.
Right. If you can do a raid with your buddies.
Play with just my friends, I'm into that.
Right.
But I don't want to play with random strangers who are going to hate crime me when I do something wrong. I'm good on that.
That was one of the cool things about World of Warcraft. Like, playing that game years ago, I ended up making friends that were, in different places, and we played together every day. It was like being a little kid. You go knock on somebody's door, and you're like, can you come out and play? You'd be like, oh, he gets off work at like 5 and he's going to come. We're going to go fucking grind this shit out so that we can complete this quest together.
Sure.
He's my buddy.
Yeah.
And like, there was a lot of that. I feel like I feel like we've lost that social aspect of gaming.
No, I don't think we have. I think it just, it took the darkest parts of that social aspect and brought them to the fore.
I see.
Right? Like, because these people have existed forever.
Sure, there's always been the trolls.
Yeah, exactly. So I think gaming in that social space has just brought some of these extreme personalities to the fore.
Fair enough.
You know?
Fair enough.
We hear them more now than we used to.
That's a fair point.
Because we didn't have the internet or we didn't have social gaming. Right?
Or if that guy was in your group, you'd be like, oh, fuck that guy. I'm not gaming with him.
Right, exactly.
anymore.
I'm going to ban him from our group.
Yeah, he's not playing with us.
Yeah.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
Can't do that no more. If you're in if you're in public matchmaking,
it's fucky, man.
It's a free-for-all, man.
It is. And you get some of the sweetest people and you get some of the scum of the universe.
Well, yeah, that's not to say that you can't create, private channels and private servers for your friends, and that's what I would end up doing. Like I said, we played, Star Trek Bridge Crew. Mm-hmm. That's one that has a public matchmaking. Well, we're not doing that. I'm creating a private room and I'm inviting the 3 people that I want to play the game with.
Right. I'm inviting real Trekkies.
Because we treat that game as a role play.
I know.
We just role play in that game. With most of the people that are playing also play in our real Star Trek role-playing game that we play once a month with each other. So, yeah, it just becomes that. But yeah, man, I just think the sphere of gaming has started to target some things that it didn't ever, and it's leading to this kind of fatigue that I have.
Sure.
It's leading to the kind of fatigue last night where I was just like, I don't want to play this game anymore.
You're like, now I just want a Flappy Bird.
What that means, though, is the next time I play this game, like, look, because there are games I'll play 3-4 times in a row right away because it's just that good. I played God of War Ragnarok 4 times in a row, and I never got tired of any second of that game. It was so fun the whole time. But this is not one of those games. This is a grind-a-thon, this game. And what that means is, I probably won't play this game again for, probably a year. That's what you've done to me. You've put me in a headspace where I'm not even going to think about this thing for the next year, right? The game I'm thinking about replaying next is God of War. And I played that game 4 times in a row on release. Capuano was even like, I can't believe you've already spent 300 some odd hours playing this game. Like, it's one of the greatest games I've ever played, Mike.
Like, I just love it so much.
It's one of the greatest games I've ever played, period. It's so good.
That's awesome.
I kind of want to play the 2 back to back, right? I want to play the first one again, the one from 2018, and then play Ragnarok. I want to play them back to back because I'm basically God in each of those at this point, right? I've maxed out every piece of equipment. I've bought every upgrade and everything you can have. So going through them now, it's not even a grind. It's just, oh yeah, you're going to get in my way for a sec. Oh yeah, you're dead. Get out of my way. Right? Like it's so easy to just roll. Now, let alone if you put it on like story mode.
Right.
Right. Where it takes it easy on you anyway. Nah, man, I just like blowing through it because the cutscenes are impressive. The game being all one singular camera shot is impressive. They also found interesting ways to use that in Ragnarok. They didn't in the first game. In the first game, it is a continual shot. From the first shot to the last shot, it is one camera shot, right? The second game does that, but it has to jump between different locations, different realms, and because in one of those places is Atreus and in one of those places is Kratos, they found some really interesting ways to do it. In the first game, he gave Atreus a knife that he made for him. He made 2 of them, right? So there's a moment where he takes his knife off and he puts it on a table and the camera zooms in on the knife. And Kratos' hand, and then all of a sudden Atreus' hand comes in. And as the camera pans out, we're in Asgard. There's a moment where Kratos does this calming technique where he'll like punch the wall, right? Just punches it over and over again. It's a calming technique. And we start the camera on him and we watch him doing it, and then we zoom in on just his hand. And then his hand, and then Atreus' hand comes in. Because Atreus does it too. He taught him to do it, right? He taught him this is something you can do to calm yourself and focus. So like they found interesting ways to keep the camera shot singular while still doing the things that you would normally have to jump the camera to a
Got
different
very
place for.
artsy with it. Yeah.
Yeah, like it was really interesting. So it's just fun to watch.
Sure.
Right? There are, you can turn off the mashing the button thing. And so you can literally just, right, because the problem with big games like that have those little quick time events and things is if you put your controller down when the cutscene begins, you're almost immediately going to have to pick it right back up to hit a button.
Right.
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 But you can turn those off. You can just turn on autoplay. Win.
Yeah.
Right. So that when the cutscene begins, I can just put my controller down. I can pick up my bowl and I can just enjoy the entertainment that is that game's story because it's so good.
The movie that's playing out.
Yeah. So there are some games like that. I will never get tired of that.
Sure.
Final Fantasy 16 is a great game. It really is. But I am tired of it.
Sure. Well, you know what's funny? So I was telling you off air that I'm going through this audiobook series right now, and I've listened to all the books, and the newest book came out, and I knew it was coming out on the 1st.
Right.
So I was like, okay, I'm gonna listen to everything real quick just to get myself through it. There's no fucking real quick about it, okay?
Right.
A couple of these books are 26 hours long.
You can listen to it on double speed.
Yeah, I mean, fuck that. I missed some of the nuance with that. So yeah, I'm going through this and I'm like, man, it's so good. And then the new book comes out and so it's a 26-hour book, I think.
Right.
And I'm 20 hours into it right now. And I'm just like, man, I have to finish this. And it's wild because I feel like where you're coming from there with your storyline in a game.
I just want it to be done.
There's an aspect of it with that, but there's an aspect of that to it, but there's also this part.
Oh, you're talking about the better part of what I was talking about.
Yes, the better part.
Yeah, sure.
No, the good part where you're like, man, I wanna see where this goes, and like you get feelings sometimes in it, and you're like, oh my god.
That game can bring tears to my eyes.
There you go.
And does several times throughout its narrative.
You're like, I just love it, and that's how
I'm
this
laughing,
book
I'm
series
crying.
is. I'm watching a guy run around with his cat.
Yeah.
And, he's running around with his cat, and I'm like, God, this is the sweetest story about a boy and his cat. So fucking good. Dungeon Crawler Carl Book 6, Eye of the Bedlam Bride is out right now. If you've not listened to that series, you should.
Yeah, they're not paying us to say that either.
Not at all, no.
He just really is into it.
I love that shit. Sound Booth Theater did the voiceover for it. You can pick it up on Audible or whatever. Yeah, that's not a paid thing. That's just I fucking love Dungeon Crawler.
Yeah,
Carl.
I wish we could get Corey Barlog in Santa Monica to pay me for talking about God of War.
Right. Well, they had
That'd be great.
Patrick Warburton was in this most recent copy of the book because the narrator was originally trying to make the main character sound like Patrick Warburton. So
Brock Sampson.
They actually got him in this one, and he's playing the, no spoilers, but he has a nice role in it that makes perfect sense. And you're like, God damn it, this is so cool.
You just said he's playing a role. Would you say he's role playing?
He is role playing. How's your role playing been going? You just played some Zelda last week, didn't you? Or was it the week before?
Last week before. Yeah, it was mostly just side quests that day. Nice. But it was fun. I like doing side quests. I like writing side quests. If my players would stop spoiling all of my side quests, that'd be great. Because there was a side quest we did where they were in the town and like they came across like a little girl who was like sad and she was crying. Oh no! And they went over and they said, "What happened?" And she said, "Oh, the bokoblins took my friend away. You got to help my friend." And Shannon, who was not part of that side quest at all, was off with the men as part of a different side quest, said, "You're going to go through all this trouble and it's going to be like her dog or something." And I was just like, yeah, I guess we'll see. And like, it was her sand seal, right? Was the friend she had lost. And as soon as I revealed that, I just turned to Shannon and I was like, "Stop spoiling my side quest. Just shush.
Why don't you sit down, shut the fuck up, and enjoy the game?
You're not even part of this side quest and you're spoiling it. Shush." But no, it was fun. It was, the aftermath of the first dungeon we had done in Gerudo Town. And yeah, I mean, it was just kind of hanging out. They ran into some NPCs and they didn't take the bait on a couple of things, right? Like I had, because men are not allowed in Gerudo Town. Mm-hmm. And normally the Gerudos would let Gorons in because they can't tell if they're male or female.
Right.
But the Goron that Shannon is playing has like a mustache and a full beard, and it's like, no, you're obviously a man, right? Like, so the men got left. There's 3 characters that are men that got left out of going into Gerudo Town. And I had like a shady guy outside like try to sell them disguises that would have allowed them to disguise themselves as Gerudo women, and they could have gone into town. But they didn't. They chose not to take that bait.
No, that's cool, man.
Yeah, they chose not to take that bait. And then, but I had another side quest ready to go regardless, so it didn't really matter.
Right.
But yeah, that all wound to a little assault on the Giga clan headquarters and stuff, and it was fun.
Yeah,
and I hope people are having fun. I mean,
I've been a player character in Starfinder recently, and god damn it, man, it has been so refreshing to not be the DM for a minute.
Sure.
Sometimes you just need that. Like, I love DMing. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But, man, sometimes it's really good just to be the player and to go in there and engage with the world. And
most of the time, I'm the DM.
Yeah.
That's fine.
It's
kind of the role I fell into over my
I love being the DM. It's a lot of fun.
I like being the DM. I don't like being the DM every time. And that usually is how it goes.
Sometimes you gotta get to be a character in the story. And, man, it's been fun.
A friend of mine is supposedly going to try to run her first game, and she's going to do the Avatar role-playing game. And I'm into that. I want to play that. I don't want to run that, though.
No.
So I'm hoping she,
man, that game would be cool as shit, though.
And runs it. Well, you can play in different eras, too. They have the Korra era is the most current era.
One, yeah.
But then you can play the Aang era, and you can play the
Roku, I'm sure.
The Roku era. And I think there's one that even goes further back than that.
The Earth one, what was her name?
Kyoshi.
Kyoshi, yeah.
Kyoshi era. I think you can play the Kyoshi era.
That's
too.
cool.
So Kyoshi, Roku, Aang, and Korra, which were the 4 avatars in a row. Because it was. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, because Kyoshi came from that village of warrior women.
Yeah, it was Earth, Fire, Air, Water. Yeah, that's the
Yep.
That's the progression.
So good.
Because they're always born into a different nation. Right?
Yes, every time every time the avatar comes from a different nation, typically they have an understanding of who it is.
Which nation it's going to be.
Yeah, they know which nation it'll be every time, like clockwork. But who it is the part that kind of has to reveal itself a little bit. I think
that was why I loved Korra.
Korra
right?
was
when she first like kicked down the wall and was like, "I'm the Avatar, deal with it."
Right, she's a hard ass.
Yeah,
yeah. I loved Avatar Korra a lot. It was a very different series than Avatar the Last Airbender.
It was more grown up.
It was. It for sure was.
It was more about love and loss and
it was political and all this shit. Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah,
super
politics.
Cool.
Yeah. But yeah,
nice. Yeah, doing Starfinder's been cool. I'm playing an android in it, so I do this android voice, and.
Android voice. Do you sound like this when you discuss things?
There's it's almost like the robot on the phone, when you call in, where they have this like slightly human sound, but it's almost too monotone, too calming all the time.
Did you know that I am a human?
Yeah. And horrible social skills.
Of course I am not a robot.
I am the voice on the other side of the phone. That's just fucking infuriating. So anytime I've been the one interacting with the NPCs the most and pissing all of the NPCs off.
Well, that's the thing. Whenever I get those robot calls, I will literally say, "Is this a robot?" And the robot responds with, "Ha ha ha, of course I am a person." It's just like, well, that in and of itself is... You're not a person.
You don't even understand.
Ha ha ha. Of course I am a person.
It's so
You're
much fun.
silly.
So much fun. And they're like, while you're out here fucking shit up, it's funny. So maybe you should just keep having these interactions anytime we have to have them. Got in trouble with the sheriff.
Well, if you look at Star Wars, droids can just talk like however. They just can have any voice they want.
Right. But
I mean, the new Ahsoka show, Hu Yang is just David Tennant.
Right.
It's just Tennant talking like Tennant.
In
droid form.
They
put a little bit of the like edge on it that gives it the robotic sound, but it's just his voice.
Yeah.
It doesn't change his voice at all.
No, but I like doing it with this like, almost like the robocaller. It's just fun.
It's creepy every time.
It's so much fun, man.
Every time I hear one of those robots, ha ha ha, you're silly. Of course I am a person.
A Persion.
Yeah. Stop calling me robots. I don't want to talk to robots.
All right. Well, you guys should go to entertainthegeeky.com. You can follow us on all of our social media there. Like, comment, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, or if you're watching this on YouTube, same thing. Like, comment, subscribe. Let us know. Let us know what's going on with your role-playing games right now, and if you like DMing more or playing more. Ooh.
Yeah, role-playing games. Are you like me and can't stop playing video games until you finished every single thing? Because it's depressing.
Do you have Final Fantasy 16 fatigue?
I'm so fatigued by that game. I should have done what Mike did. Mike's just like, I'm just going to take a break from that. I'll go back to it later. I should have just done that. I should have not done the new game.
That's not how you operate, though.
I should have just not done the new game plus. Just stopped and just waited.
Yeah, that's just not how you operate.
Can't do it.
It's all or nothing.
It's all or nothing.
Thanks for hanging out. As always, stay geeky.